We already saw two aspects of the project life cycle: speed and effort. Now, I want to share with you two other aspects: the potential to add value and the cost of correction. Let's do the same chart, the same graphic we did before, okay? Start of the project, finish of the project. Potential to add value. It respects this kind of behavior. Let me explain. This is high and this is low. At the initial phases of a project, or when you are starting to think about a deliverable or a new feature, you can add a lot of value. But what happens over time? Your ability to add this value starts to reduce, up to a point that you are not able to add more value before this finish line. Even here, maybe sometimes you even start destroying value if you start changing things. Two examples, very simple for you to memorize this when people talk about this to you. First one, cement. Imagine that you are building a wall and you have cement. When you just put water on the cement, it's almost liquid. It's like a cream. You can shape into a ball, into a cube, whatever. There is a lot of value. There is a lot of chances that you can improve, having creative ideas, right? And think about a different shape. But what happens over time? The water starts to dry and your flexibility starts to reduce up to a point that it's really tough for you to change in order to add value. And many times, if you really push too hard, what happens? You break, right? You break. And this is exactly this behavior. I'm not saying maybe your project is like this, maybe your project is like this, but it always respects this. It would be a dream if you have a project where you can still have the same potential of add value. The second example, it's like life. It's like life. If you have a child, it's very simple for you to add value. For example, to teach some of your core beliefs, right? To teach about food, or about religion, or about behavior, or about respect to the elderly, or about study. Right? When a child has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it's easy. I'm not saying easy. It's easier. What happens when the child becomes 14, 15, 16? You reduce that ability, right? That ability you used to have to shape, you reduce because they say, no, I don't want, I disagree, this is not the way I want. And then suddenly, when they become adults, it's harder. In general, it's very hard. For example, for me, it's very hard for me to make an absolutely crazy change in my life because I am at a stage where many things are so consolidated inside me that it's not easy, and probably it's your case also. In a project, it's exactly the same. So let's suppose you are building a house, very simple. At the beginning, when you are working on the drawings and you want to increase the size of your bathroom or you want to increase the size of your living room, it's not a big deal. However, if you decide doing this one day before you move in, then it's a big disruption. It must justify a lot, because most of the time here, you are disrupting things. If I add, so let me just erase some of the aspects here, because I want to draw a second line here. So let me just clean this a little bit. So I want to draw a second line here. And the second line I want to draw, so the blue is the potential to add value. Now I want to put a second line that is the traditional cost of correction. So if things go wrong and you need to fix, and you need to really change things and fix problems, usually goes like this. This is a very classical project management concept, and this is the cost of correction. If we add these two, there are very important concepts we need to understand here. First one, at the beginning, at this initial, let me put it in green, on this, I would say, initial phase here, this green area here, what do we have? We have a lot of value if we have different ideas, innovative ideas, and the cost is very low. So this is what we call constructive opportunity. Means this is a moment that you, as a senior leader in your organization, should really listen. Is there great ideas, absolutely innovative, disruptive things that we can implement on this sprint? Remember, this can be the start of a project and the end of a project. If you're using waterfall, we'll see this in the next part. Or this can be a start of a sprint and the end of a sprint. So the beginning, you can say, let's do this. What happens on the other side? Now let's see this side here. This side, the cost is skyrocketing, and the potential to add value is really low. This is what we call destructive intervention. Why you need to know that? Why you need to know that? Because this is where you really want to explore opportunities. This is where you want to get the job done. You know, it's not the time, for example, in the middle of a war, you are in a hole with your gun, that you say, oh, now let's think about creative ideas to revisit our sprint. No. Everything you do here is just to leave that sprint alive and delivering the mission you planned. That's it. If you want to be creative here, you should, with one thing in mind: how do I get to the end line? And that's it. Here is where I think about creative. Why we should explore this or explore that. But here you need to get things done. Otherwise, you do not deliver. Otherwise, you finish your sprint with a lot of backlog, additional backlog, And at the end, remember, when you do not deliver, when your sprint does not produce anything valuable, when your phase is not met, what you are doing, you are just reducing benefits. And when you do that, you are not delivering a successful project. So this is something that you need to keep always in mind. So the best time for you to think and explore, it's like when you see explore and exploit when we talk about methodology. We do that. When you exploit, this is exploration. This is exploitation. This is where you really need to get the job done, to finish that sprint. And then when it comes to the retrospective here, for you to rethink, and then you come back to this. Because in reality, what happens is something like this. Follow with me here. It's like this I would say, in an Agile project, okay? Just to give you an example. Something like this. This and this. Sprint 1, then this and this. Sprint. Remember, potential to add value, cost of correction. Potential to add value, it's like this. Of course, this is just a qualitative. It will change over time, but this is exactly. So every time you have the chance. For example, when you do the retrospective here to evaluate, it's exactly the time you want to add value and fix things for the next sprint. What is not the time to fix things for the next sprint? It's when you are 1.5 days of delivering your sprint. This is what I call transforming Agile in really Agile and not fragile. And this is why you need. And you will not be managing this, but you need to understand every time. For example, you are in a meeting discussing a challenge in the project. You need to keep in mind where we are on this chart. Are we talking about this? Are we talking about this? Or we are in this undefined area where it's really challenging to understand the trade-off. But many times I see people not discussing things here and then creating a lot of mess here. Here is the time to talk. And if we put the previous chart together with this, remember the effort, it's like this. It's like this, the chart. Did you see? This is exactly at the beginning where I said you should spend more effort, exactly to do this discussion. So this is, look, I'm not explaining to you rocket science. This is just the basic common sense. So when people in your teams are trying to get new ideas, disruptive ideas, 2 days before the release, you need to say, I only accept disruptive ideas that really deliver this in 2 days. But anything for the future, we will discuss in 48 hours. And this is to keep focus on what is really important for you.